Welcome back. This is Rina and I'm interviewing June Gachui, Miss Yummy Music, and I'm so happy about that. We're getting to know details. I mean, I've known her since I was like 16, but there's some stuff I still don't know and I'm learning from, and so I'm so happy to have you on my show, June.
Thank you.
So as I said before, there's something I learned from you. Just was just a story you were sharing, by the way. I think it was your first gig, first paid gig.
First paid, yes.
And you excitedly went home and shared with your parents, guess what? I'm getting paid, or I was paid, and the money is here, and I was paid 5,000. And your dad had a couple of things to say to you. So please, yes, remind me.
Gosh, yeah. So up until this point, we'd been performing, like we had an a cappella group at school.
I remember.
And we'd sing for people's birthdays and going away parties and such things. And then one day, a friend of mine called Mwai, who's a keyboard player who's been in the industry for a long time, had was it a cousin? I think a cousin who was getting married to a friend, somebody, and he asked me to do him a solid and said, you come sing, the next time you have somebody, I'll come play for you, and so I said, okay, that sounds like a plan, and any chance to sing, I'm happy. So we go, and when we're at this thing, somebody asks us, so how much do you guys charge? And we're like, huh? Money, give us 1 minute. And we ran to a corner and we're like heavy whispering, and we have no idea what we're talking about. We'd never thought up until that point about how to structure a payment rate card, something. I mean, we were just doing things that we were happy to do. And so the next time, the figure we came up with was 5K. At that time, it was so much money in our head. So we said 5,000 pop. And the guys were like, oh, okay. I said, hey, they've agreed quickly. Maybe we should have asked for more, but they want to pay us money, and that was what we took home. So we do the gig a few weeks later, I guess, and we get our 5K. And I go home and I'm telling my folks, hey, man, I don't even need like fuel from you guys because I'm good. Nikona transport. Tuko sawa, And my dad was like, oh, okay, so you made how much? So I told him, well, actually, it was 5K for the two of us. So I guess 2,525. He's like, okay. So how many times have you gone for rehearsal at Moi's place? So I was going, you can't know those ones for. There were like 10 rehearsals. Okay, and then so the transport for that. And then, so what did you do with the money? Of course, we went and bought ourselves, I think, burgers or something. I think we ate some of that money. So he's like, so how much do you have? I probably had spent more.
Oh, wow.
Than what we took home. And that was his lesson. Like, okay, well done for even collecting some money. But you're going to have to think about the prep that you went through and what investment you made and what your return is. And I was like, what is he talking about? He's like, what did you put in versus what you came out with? I was like, oh, so I've made a loss is what you're telling me. He's like, yeah. You've lost money. And you're happy. I'm glad you're happy, but you've lost money. So you're going to have to go back and think about how to price this thing. So I think we went from 5 to like 15K, and then over time we are so not at that rate right now. But at least it was the beginning of having a commercial conversation about this thing, because time is money. We value time, and we value, yes, the instruments and the piano and the keyboard and whatever else, the microphones, whatever else that we might be hiring to go and do this gig. But that was my first lesson that my dad taught me, which was very, wow. So he's like, yeah, so I guess there's money in this thing, but you're going to have to think very differently about how to actually make it happen. Yes.
Can we talk a bit more about his influence on your entrepreneurship journey? And how did he walk you through that journey?
So I mean, his method was show by doing. My dad was employed for the better part of his life, and I think after he retired, close to his 40s or something like that, is when he started.
He retired close to his, so he wasn't 40 when he retired?
No, I think he was 39, 40, 41, something like that.
Okay.
From what I remember, it was early 40s. Okay. And so he retired several times. My father was not a very good retiree. He didn't know what that was, so he retired the first one, I think, after 2 weeks. It's like, I can't do this, and I have to look for something else to do. So he left his formal employment and then went and set up a company. So he became an entrepreneur almost like right off the bat, and then that company that he and a few friends had set up employed him for the next few years, And then he left that organization, and then now like said, okay, I'm done with this sort of like going into the office every day as an employee kind of setup, and started doing investments, like, you know, with companies that needed angel investors or a venture capitalist kind of approach. But now, because he had all these years of business, sort of his business experience, he would then also mentor a lot of these younger entrepreneurs who are coming up. And so that's how his journey began. But it was much later in life. Like we were already in university. This was not something that happened. We were already in university when that side of his life began. So we would see him doing these things and going, what is this guy doing? Most people retire, go play golf, you know, watch TV, go for walks, like drink porridge, like something. What are you doing? You know, still going to work and wearing a suit and going for meetings. And sometimes he probably worked harder after his, you know, employed life, I would say. But the one thing we noticed all the time was how passionate he was about the things he had invested in. I remember one time he came to visit me in college, and I had a class, and he was downtown, and he said, okay, when you're done, let me know. I'm going to be at not Barnes and Noble, what is it called? W.H. Smith, the bookshop.
Oh, this is in the UK.
In London, yeah. It's called W.H. Smith. And he was there, and he said, I'll be here, so let's meet up for coffee, then we'll take the bus back to your place, because you're staying at my apartment.
Okay.
So I said, okay, no problem. So I find him there, and he's bought Internet for Dummies. Okay?
The book?
Yes. So I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? I'm sitting here going,
he's a chemical engineer.
Yes. And he's bought Internet for Dummies. And so I was like, okay, so he explained there's some business he's looking into, you know, and trying to understand a little bit about this internet thing and how does it work. So when you're logging on here, how does the school's connection work? Are you da-da-da-da? So we have a conversation about the internet. Okay. When I left, it was still like, all of that. Yes. That's what we had, dial-up systems and God knows what.
The 20-something-year-olds are listening to you and wondering, what are you talking about?
Google is your friend. Google.
Dial-up internet.
Dial-up internet. And so the next time we have a conversation, I think I'm done with school, I come back, and he's explaining how he sat in a committee meeting, and he was now able to understand the operational something. And I'm like, what? But the excitement, I still didn't understand what he was saying, but he was excited about it. And then he explained, I'm thinking of investing in this business, and I needed to understand what it was before I put my money and my time in this thing. And so the one thing I remember is that he would show us what he was doing, and then he would make sure he picked things that he had an interest in, so that the waking up and going for the meeting is not tedious. It's not another chore, and it's not another job, but it's actually, is this thing going to make a difference in the next generation? Because that was another huge passion of his, just the youth and the next generation of entrepreneurs.
How do you think he identified the entrepreneurs? Because I've always been curious about that. Like when I think about the different entrepreneurs he's worked with, people like Mike Mashari and so many others, young people who he just identified, who he spoke to, and he was just like, this guy has something. What was it? I mean, how would he even meet them?
Well, I think some approached him, and then others he would hear about, I guess. You know, I may not be 100% sure about like the method, but I think that there was like a network already, in my opinion, of people who were already talking to each other about different things. And you know, there's this Kenyan habit that is now getting, it's less and less, I think, as time goes, where you have one foot in and one foot in the work environment, meaning like you're employed because you don't want to lose that safety net, and then you have a foot in this other side, which is, you know, the entrepreneurial, risque, I don't know if things will work, but I don't want to lose the pension on this side, you know, medical cover is here, this one, I don't know what's going on, but this thing is so cool. And I think for a long time, a lot of people he would serve on boards with would mention things that they've either heard or seen, and then probably that was how conversations would begin. But for the most part, you know, at least I know for the first ISP investment he made, they reached out to him and said, there's something we're doing. They had a meeting and he asked whatever questions he needed to ask. And I guess a lot of it is also gut or instinct or discernment, you know, that, you know, does this fit? And he always used to tell us, if you're going to lend somebody money, lend an amount that you don't mind losing. Yeah. Because this thing of getting money back sometimes is a rumor. So I think that was the approach he made. He's like, if this thing works, then I've put this, you know, a seed capital, or at least I got in first. But if it doesn't, well, I tried and I've learned something from it. Yeah. And there were a lot of things he tried that didn't work out, but he never lost the lesson, I guess, is what we learned from him. Yeah.
Wow. So interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that industry is already I'm inside. Anyway, we're continuing with this conversation with June Gachui. Miss Yami, we'll get to the creative side. Kwanda, there's another play I watched called Shirley Valentine.
Yeah.
Did I tell you I cried?
Did you?
I'm like, who is that on stage? Like, June was like 7 different human beings, 7 people.
You're telling them
she was alone on stage and completely like, I was, you're this person, and then you're this other guy, and then you're this lady, and I was completely in this story. And I was like, I'm worried for my friend. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Okay. This is Rina Hicks, and you are watching All Access. God bless.